Okay, it's Thursday and we've got a new set. I said we're not going to buy any more new sets. I've hit the age of 60 and it just seems to get worse and worse and worse. We've still got some new sets I bought which are in the pipeline, but we've got so many repairs in and there's a limit to what I can do with the organ side of the business in this side of the business that we just haven't kind of covered them. I think there's a small moonraker. Anyway, this is something we've never done before. And we've always said no, but we've said yes this time. Thunderpole approached me, said would I like to try the latest version of the T800, knowing full well the fact I'm a qualified 2A radio engineer, and that we're going to tell the truth, whatever that truth turns out to be, even if it's not favourable. I just had a quick look on the shelf because we've done the T600, we've done two versions of this. We've done the T1000, we've done the T2000. Of course, we've done several T3000s, and I've always said with those, they go smoothly from AM on CPT to FM on CPT to UK FM and then back. So one of the gripes I've had about the first generation one, and if you remember, Alan, our kind benefactor, sent us a broken T800, which we had to do a lot of sorting out of. Expect it was finger trouble, I can't even remember now. But anyway, yeah, we had a first generation T800, so I think they've been going about 6 or 7 years in various guises. And on that one of the annoying features is that the RF gain control, nice and visible here on the front panel, does absolutely nothing unless it's in AM. And it's nowhere said on the box that that was the case. So we bought, with our own money, from Thunderpole, the next generation one. And blow me, the RF gain only works in AM on that one. So when Thunderpole reached out to me and said, would I like to review it? I said, yes, but I've got one or two gripes. And the gripes is the faff of getting it into EU AM, for those people who want to do that, because you've got to take it out of UK channels. And the second gripe was that the RF gain control, the fact it was advertised that it was there, was disingenuous, and that people may well steer clear of Thunderpole products if they get this home and find out that it only works on AM and they're not ever going to use AM. So you can see my point. You get it home, RF gain does nothing, and you look in the book and it may well say that it doesn't. I can't even remember that either. But anyway, they said, no, you must have got the one I bought. They said, we did alter it, and it does work on FM. Well, mine doesn't. Anyway, this one, it does. And we're going to be looking at that. So that was my... if you say it's got something and it hasn't, it's like certain brands of cars beginning with a V with dodgy fuel figures. Oh, well, we didn't have a spare tyre in the boot. Oh, well, it had special software to detect when it was being tested and all that. So this is supposed to be as they come from the factory. So, in other words, it ain't been doctored. I'm going to look at our instruction book on file and see what it has to say about RF gain. I'm going to do that right now. And if we look at the printout on my HP printer tray, I printed out page 2 from the 2014 instruction book, RF gain knob. The transceiver uses a high sensitivity and selectivity receiver circuit, which it does, it's crystal filtered. The receiver gain is adjustable with the RF gain knob. By rotating the knob anti-clockwise, the receiver gain is reduced. It's convenient to adjust the receiver gain in case of very strong signals from local stations. Like your convoy in the car, your mate's behind you doing 4 watts, well that does help. This knob only functions in AM mode, so it does clearly say in the instruction book, but I don't think it did on the box, but I haven't got an old box to prove it. You only need to look at the back catalogue, as I've demonstrated the 2014 version, which is the one we got from Alan a few months ago, and then long in the past we did do the 800 because I bought one. I'm just unfortunate that my computer doesn't tell me the shelf location. There are 400 sets here, and it's not always easy to spot them. They're not all in the same place either. Not even all in this building. So, this has gained PA. Now, as a service engineer, that helps me tremendously. Whether it's useful or not to the end user, as a service engineer, it's jolly well useful, because you can end up with a radio not doing much, and you can switch it to PA and find out whether it's actually working on PA, and you've straight away tested the mic, you've tested the preamplifier for the mic circuits, you've tested the final output and all that. So you can sometimes be sent well in the right direction by having a radio with PA. So looking at the specifications, we're going to have to convert that. I'm in microvolts, but I take some of this with a pinch of salt, and test instruments differ anyway. So it's a 4 watt radio. It says so at 13.8 volts. It says that AM modulation is 85 to 90%. Yeah, definitely not ever more than 93. Definitely, you end up with squedging and causing a lot of interference. I don't find AM of any use to me whatsoever. I don't find the CPT channels much use, because I get less range because of the residual background noise here being S5, whereas the residual background noise on UK channels is S3. We've done quite a lot of range tests now incorporating AM, and it's always less range. So I think sometimes people are looking at AM through rose-coloured spectacles, or getting it confused with FM broadcast band and AM broadcast band, where they're pumping out 1,000,000 watts on Radio 4 on AM, and of course you can pick that up everywhere. So we'll get this set out of the box. As I say, to be honest, and I've said this time and time again, that the Thunderpole sets are the only sets that I have found in general that you can take out of the box and they actually work, as in not requiring optimization. I did an Albrecht set yesterday, one of those expensive ones. They're not even making them now, so it's, it's all right me commenting, but I'm talking about those really swish ones at £200, and the really dreary output, 2.9 watts and deaf as opposed to receive. We're talking about more than 1 microvolt. What else? 0.7 deviation. You can't use that out of the box, and this is why you end up buying it dead cheap off eBay. So it's 313. So it's the same set. And one of the things I've always liked about this is you get an LED type display, because the liquid crystal displays on so many sets, we thought it was great fun when they were new out in the late 80s. One of the German sounding brands, I can't remember which one it was, they brought out one with an LCD display, and you think, wow! And then you realise that if you look at it from an angle and you can't put it right in front of you in the car, that you can't see what channel it's on. That Midland 78 Plus Multi, which is in our test car, you bearing in mind we're right-hand drive, so you've got it on your left, you can't see it on the left, you've got to move your head over, so you can't change channel when you're driving. Now if you're on the left, the polarisation filter is such that you can see it from the left, but the passenger's not using it, so it's not being taken into consideration that we're right-hand drive in the UK. And that's a set which only does 3.6 watts maximised. Right, we're going to hook this up to the test set. I don't need to pussyfoot around with it because it is a new set, so I don't have to switch the power supply on at 9 volts, carefully monitoring at 300 milliamps. No, we'll put it right on 13.8 volts and we will see. Now our test set is slightly selective within its bands, so I've said this time and time again that when I say a radio is 3.6 watts, it may well be 4 watts on another meter, and it may well be 5.5 watts on a hobby meter that likes to tell you lies. So, right, so it's come on, it's powered up with ASQ, which is auto squelch. We'll get rid of that. And we're going to, I tell you what we're going to do, we're going to check PA first. Switch it into PA. It says PA on the display, which is always nice. and hopefully we can change the volume on it, because not all sets you can. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2. It's a bit bassy. But that's our 3-inch SW711 speaker, 4-inch SW711 speaker. Right, but it does have control over the volume, which some of the sets we've tested currently and in the past, it's full volume all the time, which is ridiculous. So what are we on? It's on. Is it on UK channels? We'll see. Oh yeah, it's actually showing slightly low on frequency, but my test set's only been on 10 minutes, so we need to verify that. It's not off frequency. When I say slightly low, it's well within spec. Right, power. It's doing more than 3 watts. It's doing 3.5 watts. Right, it's time to start filling a sheet in. I've left the clipboard in the other room. Is it the 31st today, or is it the 1st of June? Let's say it's the 1st of June. Thunderpole T800. Seal number 23, there's your date code. 03, there's your other date code. So it certainly is factory fresh. Now, don't have low power because they're not 2781, and the current consumption is 1.38. So a bit more than you get on older sets, because these are running CPUs like all modern sets are. So I'm going to have a little look at our deviation, but the deviation meter isn't reliable on this at the moment, so we're monitoring it on the one behind. So I'll say at the end what it really was, but I'll just check for now. Wallow. So at the moment I've got 2.0. We're not doing the VCO, and frequency we'll come back to, because now these don't have a meter, which is, oh, they do have a meter, it's 4 bars. I don't think it's adjustable. Right, let's have a look at the receiver. And the RF gain works. Let's turn the squelch down. That is 10 out of 10. You're listening to 100 microvolts, so we should be having, I would expect the 3rd bar to light, but it relights at, this doesn't say whether it's S9, but I'm going to say that bar 3 is the S9, and I would say that bar 4 is plus 30. So, you know, sometimes when they don't say what they are, you've got to make up your own mind. So let's see what we're doing. So it is 190 microvolts for S9. There's no meter lamp, it doesn't work like that. PA's absolutely fine, sockets are fine, potentiometer's fine. We haven't tried the switches yet. So let's plug it into our SINAD meter. Let's find the remote for the cameras. I've not had picture-in-picture on at all, so I'm telling you a load of malarkey. I'll just go back into transmit, so you can see. I'll just turn the volume down. You can see that we're well beyond the 3 watts. And if we go on to the 30 watt scale of the test set, you can see it's about 3.5. And back to the deviation. Wow! Could even be 2.1 there as a peak. Let's put 2.1, that's super fair. but I will verify it with the other test set before I twiddle it. So we've got the SINAD meter to go on. There's the SINAD meter, which the poltergeist keeps moving, or I keep moving, not moving back. Wow. I just changed scale. That is good. I can't remember what it was before. I'd have to look that up. So for 12 dB SINAD, we have got 0.29 microvolts. For 10 dB SINAD, we have got 0.22 microvolts. And I don't do dBm. I'm going to have to convert their figures. It's like capacitors in nanofarads and picofarads. You know, there weren't nanofarads when I was training. Wow, the 20 dB is exceptionally good. It's 0.8 microvolts. So I think we've got a chart somewhere, but I'll, with conversion table on for dBm, but I don't think it's here. So I'll fill that in and show you later. It's easy to look up anyway. So that is brilliant. Now let's look at the squelch. I like it to be 100 microvolts for full, but there's no hard and fast rule on that. So let's have a look. 3, 10, 30, 100. It is stronger than that. It is. Wow, it's 2.6 millivolts. And the threshold, this is the important one. What you don't want is for when you turn the squelch to full on a radio, that it never ever opens. What is the use of that? And some sets, the squelch never ever opens. Sometimes because it's been messed with, and sometimes because it's manufactured like that, which is ridiculous. So although that's a stronger top end than I would like, it isn't wrong. I'm turning the wrong knob. I should be turning the squelch. I'm turning RF gain. So we'll turn the signal generator to standby. Turn the squelch to threshold on the radio. Make sure that's genuine threshold. It is. Switch the signal generator on. Now it's parked at 0.3 of a microvolt. So as it's coming, it's gone back off again. Let's see where we are. Coming in at 0.85 of a microvolt, which is absolutely lovely. No argument with that. And the hysteresis is such that it doesn't drop off till 0.52. So in other words, the hysteresis is where it's tracking the signal you're listening to. What you don't want is you're doing a Norman Collie going eow, eow, as you drive down the road. So it does follow the signal you're receiving quite nicely. It's a new set, and guess what? The speaker and the mic work. So far that's excellent. We'll open it up. We've got the first generation one up here. This is the one we got from Alan, and you'll see that even with the 2014 version, it says 14, so you know it is, it says on the serial number. So you see, it's still got the same heatsink. The fins have got a little bit bigger, but it's got a nice die-cast heatsink on it. And you know, it's kind of changed little, but this is the early version. And the mic you were getting then was this dinky little one, which is not as robust as this. So that is another improvement between 2014 and 2023. Why can't I find the 2019 one? Perhaps Mr. Chippy's got it on his bedside table. I'll just turn it off so I don't inadvertently short anything out. I'll switch the soldering iron on ready just in case we have to unsolder a speaker lead. The other thing I mentioned to Thunderpole is, of course, that this doesn't smoothly go EU, AM, FM, and then UK channels. You've got to actually either be in the UK channels, or you've got to be in the EU channels and then switch between AM and FM. But they did say that most of the customers that buy these are never ever going to move off UK set of channels anyway. And when I say that 99 point something% of the repairs that come in, they say optimised for UK channels because the EU channels are unusable. So that's absolutely fair enough. If you want a set that smoothly goes from AM, FM, CPT onto UK FM, then there's other models that Thunderpole offer, and we know the 3000 is an excellent one. And we'll be reviewing their latest version of that, I think, next week. Unless they never want to talk to me again after this one. Right. Okay, that's got rid of the speaker. So, not comparing my previous video, so you get a decent sized modulation transform for the AM. Not all sets with an AM capability have an AM modulation transformer. There are other techniques to do AM, and that doesn't mean that they're rubbish, because business radios I was working on from Pi in the 80s and 90s, which were AM, and a lot were, and probably still are, there's going to be AM schemes out there, they didn't use modulation transformers and used an alternative technique. So looking straight away, you've got a 35 volt rated capacitor. Does that mean that this is a 24 volt rated set? I wasn't expecting that. No, it's not. No, it's 13.8 with 15% leeway, which is nice. That's an interesting point. I'm going to add 15% onto our voltage, and we'll see what the output power is and whether it's a regulated type of output power. I remember another brand a couple of years back, it said 24 volts on the radio, and when I put it to 24 volts it went bang, didn't it? Luckily it only took a capacitor out, but if you've got a 16 volt rated capacitor and you reckon the radio is 24 volts, well, that's not kind of right. So are there any adjustments at all is the question. You know what? No, there's none, are there? So fiberglass printed circuit board has been with most sets since the early 2000s. Now this brings me on to I'm not involved in amateur radio equipment, despite being a Class A licensed radio amateur, but I don't have any of this Yaesu, Kenwood, ICOM stuff. It's all ex-business radios or home build. But I'm aware that some of these very expensive HF sets certainly from the 80s, were using SRBP boards, and I think that's dreadful. But anyway, here we go. This is, things like the transistor there, and the audio IC here, which looks like a TDA 2002. I put enough pairs of glasses on. TDA 2003, I guessed that wrong. So there's no adjustments. It's probably some software thing. Perhaps we'll get into it. Perhaps we won't. We'll find out. I'm just going to unscrew this, because let's just see what they've done in the power output kind of section. All this is screened not to stop fingers, it's to stop interference. And you compare this with the way sets were built for the UK in 81, you know, and it's a very different beast. But of course the interference standards have gone up and up and up, and we were really strict on interference standards even back in 81 here in the UK. Yeah, so I will just this doesn't happen at HF, but you don't want spiky bits of wire at UHF. Now it's all nicely done. You've got a ceramic filter there for the 455, which is a standard type of filter. You've got a crystal filter for the 10.295 IF. I mean, back in 1981 there were only, wow, the realistic 1001 handheld was crystal filtered. The DNT M40 base was crystal filtered. In 83 we had the realistic 2003 one-hander, which was crystal filtered, and the Maxcom 30E, which was crystal filtered, and that was it. Realistic 1005 came along, handheld, also crystal filtered, but really they were really few and far between until the 90s. Right, so we'll come back to this. Right, so we'll come back to this an hour later. We've just done the on the air test actually, and it worked fine. Lots of interference on CPT today, but that's how CPT is and why it's unusable here. So we're just going to finish this video off. I've just checked the deviation and that was right, 2.1 kilohertz. I've had a word with Thunderpole. There are no adjustments whatsoever. It's done at the factory, full stop. I've mentioned that I'd like the deviation to be a little tiny bit high. I've got 2.1. It'd be better if it was 2.2. And they said these tweaks can happen. So I'm going to see how we are on frequency. Yeah, it's 27.79106 on here, and that's show you that. And if I put it on the test set behind me, it'll say 27.79115. And if I put it on the test set in the other room, you know, they're all going to be somewhere, but it's absolutely fine. The sensitivity is absolutely phenomenal on this. So I've had a word with them about the 3.6 watts. In fact, we've had 3.8. I put it on 14.4 volts. We've got 3.8, and they say, well, that reads 4 watts on their test set, and that's fine because our test set is a bit selective and it doesn't look at interference. So it doesn't matter how good the filtering is, there's always going to be some spurious emissions. And I've said this time and time again. When I say something's 4 watts, it may well read 4.4 watts on any other meter. It's the way this test set is. So never worry about when I say radios are 3.6 watts. So when we do the G-code the other day, we did the G-code the other way, it was 2.7 watts, was it? Well, it's probably 3.1, you know, so it's a 3.5 watt set, so it really doesn't matter. So it works out of the box. Look at the video, which comes next, the on the air test, and see how it sounds with no possible adjustments. So this is, I think, the first time we've had a set with no possible adjustments. We probably have had others, but didn't realise there's no possible adjustments. So what else can we say? I wonder what power it's doing on the CPT band. So I'm going to go to CPT. Let's go over to the power meter. 3 watt scale, bangs across. Yeah, it's 3.6 there on channel 20. Let's take it down. Channel 1, 3.5, UK channel 40 is actually a little bit more, it's probably about 3.8. So unusually it's lower down towards the end of the bottom of CPT and higher towards the top of UK. But it's certainly in there, and it's doing a little bit more power than the test set in the test radio in our test car. So I'll put that down, 27,79106. And we'll now plug it in and we'll have a flick round. Now I'm going to flick round CPT because it's absolutely unbelievable how much racket is on. So the PA device used in this is capable of 8 watts, which means that it's going to be running cool doing 4 watts, and that's always good. This is what has always got me about the Cybernet 134s. When you get them in, somebody's, part of the alignment procedure is to turn them up to maximum, and then you set it as per manual, and that's because the PA has leeway. It's about a 5.5 watt PA. You turn it down to 4. It's like driving your car. At full revs, you would change gear. I just never get that running thrashing things. Perhaps people like buying sets regularly. I don't know. And it makes no difference to your range. So I've said this before. If you have an amplifier and you're listening to records on an amplifier, and it was 4 watts output, it would be such and such volume. If you change that amplifier to 3.6 watts, it wouldn't make any difference to how loud it was. But if you changed it to 2, you would start to notice. Right, let's put it on the aerial and see what we can hear. One niner, Roger.
From German station RC.
Who thinks he's doing 4 watts? German station, do you copy Tango 21? No, of course he doesn't. Some of you might like that, but to me it's supposed to be a local two-way radio service, and it just ruins it because I can't then use it to talk locally. What we're going to do is switch this to AM so we can hear if there's any AM activity. So I'll switch it off, and we'll switch it. I've got paint all over my hands. I've been painting organ pipes gold. Start again. So we're now on AM. So he is on AM. There's one thing we didn't do, and I've got the test set still on. We never looked at what the AM modulation was, so I'll just do that while we're in AM. So AM modulation, I'll put picture in picture back on so we can all see. I'll have to tune it in. Wow. Well, it's gone off my scale, so it must be 93 to 95%. So that answers that question, doesn't it? So in conclusion, it's a set that works out of the box. There is no optimization. And have a look at the on-the-air test and see how it performed. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Thunderpole for sending this sample. It's greatly appreciated, especially seeing as we've said we're not buying any more new sets. We've got the Thunderpole 3000 they've also sent us to evaluate, the latest version, and that'll be next week. We've also going to be resuming our Sierra Hotel 1 Tango set Sunday. We've got some great chassis sets, you know, such as I did the G-Col. I bought a couple of Fidelity Thousands off eBay, like I'm stupid enough to do. One is a non-worker and one is supposed to be a worker, so they'll be random as they come out of the box. What else have we got? We've got a Rotel 220 come in, and we also have a Midland 77104 GTL, which is quite an unusual set. You don't see many of those. So thanks for watching.